Is being recorded, and we'll have it up on the website, and the school will distribute it to everyone, so you can replay it at your leisure. I want to thank everybody for joining us this Friday afternoon, and thanks the principal for actually offering to come and give us school updates, because you know how we love school updates, right? So Principal Re-Sugiura, how's life? How's things? I'm sure you're going to tell us all about it. And I'm excited to have both you and Janine here joining our lovely parents. So I'm going to ask you to take it away.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me start off by saying thank you, everybody. Thank you, PTA, Barbara, and other PTA members especially, for putting together another town hall for our families and the students who are in on this call as well. So how are things going? Well, there are a lot of updates. I'm going to get started with a quick presentation. I'm feeling very good. I'm in good spirits, as high energy as possibly can be. And after a principals meeting with 48 other district principals this morning from our district, we were able to bring our ideas together, really brainstorm around how we can best maximize each of our schools for remote instruction, and continue on with our work around culturally responsive pedagogy and anti-racism in our learning. Okay, let me get into the presentation because you may need to host me, Barbara. It's all good. And before I even get into this presentation, I just want to ask that everybody drop into the chat a way that you find peace and calm in these times. How are you finding peace and calm? Or how are you trying to find peace and calm? And I'll put that question in the chat now.
That's a great question.
It's important for us as we share our best practices as a teaching community to also reflect on what it is that makes our family community so strong. And many of you have equally stressful jobs and are under the kind of duress that us, even in a stressful job like this, can only imagine. So we thank you for your work, and we'll be happy to borrow some of your best practices for how you can inject a little calm into your lives. So I'm seeing a lot of music, reading, meditation, mindfulness, flexing that creative muscle is really critical. And when you can, getting out, exercising and walking around, but doing so safely, right? So this is great to see. For those that are still adding in, please continue to do so. And one last thing before I start this presentation, I'm going to ask that everybody with me breathe out all the air in those lungs. Take a deep breath in for a 3 count. 1, 2, 3, and let it out. We're gonna do that one more time. All the air out, here we go. Breathe in for 1, 2, 3, and let it out. Okay. So we always want to try to get into the right headspace and conduct ourselves and share news, good or bad, with everybody in as calm a means as possible. So I'm going to get the ball rolling now on our parent town hall info. Okay. To start off, we are continuing with the instructional model that we started the year with. The good news here is that it was approved officially by our faculty yesterday in a school-based option vote, which means it's official. Now, there's 2 parts to this. The first of which is that we're keeping the 4 in-person cohorts with 1 cohort fully remote. And the second part of this is that we are now switching up part of our programming model so that there is, as you can see in the middle of the day, an office period and a student lunch period. That change is in response to outreach from families and students demanding an opportunity for them to connect and also to unhook themselves from the computers for a few minutes, especially those learners at home who felt that 5.5 hours of constant instruction was simply too much. So you can see that our first period, effective Monday, is going to begin at 8:35 in the morning. So no longer at 8:52. So again, the period schedule has changed through the end of the lunch period. After that, the periods actually, remain the same. And what I've included at the bottom is just when our faculty are meeting for their conferences and our faculty prep period. The bottom two rows don't actually impact student schedule. But it's important to know that the end time of the day is still, we still end before 2:20, and there won't have to be any changes in terms of our busing or transportation. Everything is being updated accordingly. So thank you to families, thank you to students and members of our PTA for advocating for what our young professionals need for their mental health. Okay. The break time, just to give a little bit of clarity, is going to be included with passing time as well. Time to get to the cafeteria and gymnasium for those that are in the building. And we're also going to be holding some weekly participation-based events, right? So we're going to have weekly draw-a-thons where all the students in the school building are going to receive thematic prompts and have a 20-minute quick draw during their lunch if they'd like to. We're going to be asking that if students feel like it, they could submit their thematic illustrations to our Instagram page, and then we'll be posting up the the top 10 and doing that on a weekly basis to get more student participation, more student voice represented in what we do. We're also going to be hosting mindfulness sessions in the cafeteria and in the gymnasium. So there's going to be kind of like a lunch and then breakout space where students, if they need to, can engage in those same kinds of breathing activities that we just did a few seconds ago. Of course, we're open to more ideas and suggestions, and some of our fabulous family members have already sort of thrown their hat in the ring as to ways they can help participate. If you do have ideas, please send them to lfamilia@schools.nyc.gov. That's Mr. Familia, who is our school's COSA, Chair of Student Affairs. For those who are learning remotely, we are encouraging these students to log off, put the computer down for half an hour. And we will also be sending the same prompts, however, to all students at the beginning of the day on Wednesday. It'll be on the school website. So that way, it's not going to be purely for the students in the school building. It'll be for everybody. All students should be able to participate in these kinds of school-based events. Speaking of school-based events, tutoring and clubs kick off next Monday, right? November 2nd. We're sending this brochure out to everybody by close of business today. It's really about why we have clubs in the school at all. And this year, I think we're up to 18, which is not bad considering that many of our schools rely on being in person, but our advisors have found ways to remotely conduct all club activities. Let me go back real quick. I just want everyone to know that students are the core voice of what we do at the school, and they can start their own clubs as long as they have an idea and enough people to come on board. Typically, clubs run about 15 students deep in order to maintain consistent membership, plus they need an advisor. And that same email, lfamilia, can be used if students want to reach out and propose a club concept. Students can definitely join more than one club at a time, and they're fantastic communities. The Dungeons and Dragons Club is 40 students deep, and they are committed. Our student government, our STEP clubs are, you're going to see the list actually. Let me bring us over to the next page. The reason why I'm bringing up all these clubs in the first place is because there's a place for any of our students in the school building. But if they do choose to enroll in more than one club, my recommendation is just be cautious, because there's still an investment of time and there has to be a balance between extracurriculars and curriculars. So you can see we have a lot of choices. And among these, which we haven't even seen yet here, is the National Honor Society. So NHS does have a chapter at Art and Design. The students who are in NHS this year are going to be earning their service credit hours by providing peer mentoring to students in need of additional tutoring supports. And our tutoring schedule is kicking off for Monday as well, which is going to be posted on our school website. So this whole deck will be shared with you. And obviously this presentation is recorded for your reference if you need to see a certain advisor. Quick note for November 3rd, it's coming Tuesday. It is election day. No staff or students will be in the building. Only dietitians, our custodians, and school safety. It is, however, still an instructional day. And I know that it's going to be a day that is filled with high drama and excitement, but it's really important that we still maintain the instructional focus of what we do. For those members of our PTA and interested folks who are of age, you can go to vote.nyc and you can find out your local polling site there. There's also a large number of FAQs related to what you need to do or need to know in the event that you have a mail-in ballot, want to go in person, even though you have a mail-in ballot. They can clarify all those types of questions. We don't pick a side, but we do pick democracy as a preferred system. We also want to spend a little bit of time in school talking about the election. We're not here to ignore current events, and this is one of the biggest events of our young professionals' early lifetimes. So on the day after the election, it's an expectation that social studies teachers address the outcome, whatever finalized or ongoing outcomes there are in the election, and how students are feeling, because that part of the process is something that even if your young professional is not of voting age, are still affected by, especially in today's climate. Okay. Whew. So many of you may remember that there were originally 4 windows to opt in to blended learning if your young professional was fully remote. So the DOE notified everybody this week that that has been reduced to 1. There is now only 1 window. That window is as follows: Monday, November 2nd, this coming Monday, through Sunday, November 15th, families and students can opt back in to in-person learning. Now, if you do so, you need to complete the learning preference survey. So the link is built into this presentation, which will be shared with you, but it's also the same survey that you used originally to request fully remote instruction. What's going to happen is that we're then going to review your updated learning preference on a rolling basis. The central support staff are going to be communicating with our school as to any issues that come up. And then we are going to be working on assigning your young professional the appropriate in-person cohort and making sure that the sizes of the cohorts still ensure fidelity to the instructional model while being socially distanced. So students are going to begin their in-person learning during the weeks of November 30th and December 7th. Okay, but that is the 1 window we've been given. And I know there may be questions about that, but that's literally as much information as I have. But Ms. Johnson would be happy to take further questions you have so that we can escalate them to the district level as needed. So some parents were asking about College Now, and I realized that I just breezed through it during previous presentations. College Now is a program that works in an extracurricular manner where our students, once they've met certain criteria, are able to enroll in college classes at Hunter or any of the other CUNY colleges in your respective area. The way to do that is actually going to be done through our college counselor. Oops. Sorry, there we go. Patricia Doulis. So I placed her email into this presentation as well, pdoulis@schools.nyc.gov. I really should have finished that first sentence because that's sloppy, but it's outside of their regular class load. So I want to clarify that this is basically another class, college level, that your young professional would be taking. And what that also means is that it's an added responsibility. If they're already taking multiple AP courses or university aligned courses, we have to be really careful about how much we're putting on our students. At the same time, the credits are virtually free. The courses themselves are free, and the criteria is relatively straightforward. In the past, it's been that if a student had a 75 or higher on the ELA Regents and a 65 or higher on the math Regents, then they were automatically eligible for College Now. Because of last year's waivers, those number requirements have actually been waived as well, which means even more of our young professionals are eligible to take these College Now courses. So we're going to send out that information to all families just so that you have it following this presentation today. Okay? Cool. Odds and evens. Some of you may have noticed that on our website we had odd days and even days, in addition to the fact that we had A, B, C, and E. It's like enough is enough. What we were trying to do is make sure that there was an even, and odd distribution of days where students had specific flipped classes. Your young professionals' flipped classes are their foreign language classes, physical education, health, and SAT prep. Those classes, depending on the day of the week that your young professional comes in, may have been only visited once or twice an entire semester, depending on which day, again, which cohort your child was assigned to. So that was problematic, and we switched to an odd and even system where we could assign specific odd and even days, trying to break up the actual in-person learning days. But it got too complicated. And in the end, the vast majority of teachers teaching those courses were fully remote. So instead of creating this additional level of complexity, we've instead decided to scale that back and say, enough with the odds and evens. We're just following the regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 week, and Tuesday, Thursday, the next week's schedule that you have in Scheduler and Pupil Path. So that's the one you need to follow. Whatever's in Pupil Path, that's right. We also updated the school calendar on our website yesterday, so that's set and ready to go. Okay, upcoming parent-teacher conferences are also a thing, November 12th and 13th. They're going to take place on the evening of the 12th and in the afternoon of the 13th. Keep in mind that schools are dismissing early on the 13th. That's a Friday. And so what that means is that we're only going to have periods of instruction 1, 2, and 3, and then students are going to be dismissed. I know that's not ideal, especially because students only come in so often right now as it is, but that's the DOE's policy. The conferences are going to be fully remote, and both of these days are going to be an opportunity for you to get to know teachers a bit better, understand your young professionals' progress, and sense a bit more about how the curriculum that we use at Art and Design aligns to a deeper, more culturally responsive pedagogy. And by that, I mean every one of our teachers is going to be put together a brief video detailing who they are, what subject they teach, the major topics they're going to be covering over the course of the year, and again, how their course is aligned to culturally responsive learning. And for us, that means it's a multi-tiered term, which I'd be happy to go over with you at the next PTA meeting. So yeah, that's happening. And as far as setting reservation times for staff, right now we're working out the best system to use because there are a number of different ones, but we absolutely want to avoid double booking anybody, and we want to avoid redundancies. So once we get those reservation systems set, we're going to send those to the entire community as well. Okay. All right. We have a lot of Instagram activity. If you have, it's one thing to follow us at our main account, Art and Design NYC, but then you'd be missing all of the really incredible major related content that our students and departments are producing. So A&D Creates is our ad agency site, right? The students of A&D. Right now they're working with Movement Strategies, a company that is, they're working on a pitch right now to Warner Brothers for their TikTok branding. Unbelievable, but our students are doing really high level stuff. And the A&D film department is obviously putting forth incredible content. Line Time Studio is our animation department. Art and Design Tunes is our cartooning major. And the graphic design A&D is our graphic design. And we'll share the other ones as we get them over the course of the next town hall. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. Take a breath. And I guess address some questions.
Yes, that sounds good. Janine, have you been, I know Janine's been diligently responding to as many as she can. I noticed that.
So there was one question that came up about camera on.
Sure. So the policy that went out to the entire school community about cameras on is one that came about because we realized after meeting with teachers and some parent members and the administration that the classes with the highest levels of student completed work, daily attendance, and engagement have been classes where there's been a, not required, right, but strongly encouraged camera on dynamic. And actually several of our teachers who have those contracts with students and families shared their practice with the entire school. After reflecting on it, we realized there are a lot of reasons why cameras may be kept off in students' homes and certainly in some teachers' homes as well, as it may relate to any number of things, anxiety disorders or socioeconomic issues, or in certain cases, simply bandwidth and the ability to host a video conferencing conversation with the camera on. I know for a fact that unless I had stolen my wife's MacBook, which I'm using right now, unfortunately, the Chromebook, yeah, I know. The Chromebook that I had from the school is great for doing written work, but not so great for having the camera on. It's just because the CPU isn't as powerful as we'd like. And we're purchasing DOE technology, so we get what we pay for. No slight to the DOE, who I know is working very hard to secure good contracts with great companies. So for those that have an issue with camera on, that's okay, as long as you articulate that to the teacher, right, of the class. And agreements should have gone out from just about every teacher. If they haven't yet, they will be soon.
So there was another
Matt?
question.
Oh, just on the camera on. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, and I wish there was a way that students could automatically, when they log on, have a background. Does that sound crazy? You know, just so that it's across the board the same background for all students logging in.
I think best practices around a background are an easy way to do it. And another thing is that Google Meets, which is used by about 65% of our teaching staff, already has a way to filter out the entirety of the background so that just you are outlined and everything else is perfectly blurred. So it's not a privacy issue because, you know, that function is built in. So we can share those practices with the entire school community for sure.
So there was another question about teachers' hours. Can you just clarify that? Is it after school, before school, or only during school?
When you say teachers' hours.
Teachers' office hours.
Got it. Got it. So the teacher's office hours are built into the middle of the day, right? Like we saw before, the specific window of time is, I mean, according to contract right now, is simply those 20 minutes. Many teachers make themselves available after the working day, but it's not something that we can mandate. And I want to be conscious of that. So when I go back to, you know, the schedule, 11:40 to 12 is really prime time for teachers to be working on outreach. And also our guidance counselors are going to be coordinating our parental engagement meetings. They're called PEG meetings. Those are going to happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And what happens is guidance arranges for all parents of a particular young professional, I'm sorry, all the teachers of a particular young professional to meet with the parents and guidance to go over performance. And if there are any areas of concern, we address them at that time. So those are going to be effective starting this coming week, really Thursday, because Tuesday is going to be a challenge with election day. But that's the goal.
So the next question is, what is Saturday school?
Saturday school, it is basically our former PM school, but we realized that we were giving, we didn't want to create an additional layer of work that ended up running students even deeper into their evening, especially if they were completing tasks which they needed to finish up from that day. So Saturday school is broken down by subject area. Full disclosure, I'm one of the Saturday school teachers. Folks were asking what happened with our French program, right? A few parent town halls ago, unfortunately, our French teacher retired. She did collaborate with me to help develop some supporting materials for the class, but I'm the French teacher for Saturdays. And the students in my class are ones who earned an NX grade back in spring. So the goal right now is for them to complete the skill standards they need to so that that NX can be changed to a passing grade. That's the goal. So Saturday school is for those students who had NXs, and it's also for students who need to retake a full course. Either way, we have licensed subject area teachers in each of those courses. And at this point, they've also shared with their students when they're meeting on Google Meets or Zoom, along with access to their Google Classrooms and tasks.
Next question is regarding attendance. My child has forgotten to do attendance at least 6 times, but she's been in school every day.
Yeah. So let me, no, this is fine. So we realized a couple weeks ago, we were having a serious attendance issue that we knew was something we had to do something about. Our attendance was coming up every day at something like 70%, which we knew was impossible, because the number of students actually in classes was much, much higher. So we took a look and realized that the survey was not getting nearly as many hits as it needed to. So what we started doing was recording all period attendance in Kinvolved, that program that we use to conduct outreach. Every teacher now does it for every single class. As a result, instead of 400 students not being accounted for on a daily basis for attendance purposes, instead that number has dropped to 55 on average as of the beginning of this week, which is obviously a notable change. Our school had some of the highest turnout of any school in District 2 all of spring. So when we saw the low attendance numbers, we were kind of shocked. Now what's happening is your child is absolutely being accounted for by every single teacher whose class they're in. every single period. And we've encouraged teachers to record the attendance within the first 2 to 3 minutes of the class and then send messages home. So if you're getting bombarded, my apologies, but the idea is that we get as many students in at the beginning of the class as possible.
Okay, I skipped a question actually. It was actually, will more teachers be teaching in person? And the second part of that is, was that the big deciding factor in whether to go back to blended learning?
Yeah, it's a tough decision that you're going to have to make with, unfortunately, 2 big pieces of data looking at you. One of them is the rising number of COVID cases in and around New York City. The whole city's floating at a 2% infection rate for those tested across the board. And that number's been going up for the last now week and a half. The other piece of information is that we have more teachers going out on accommodations than we have staying in the building. So we're approaching that 50-50 marker with our staff that are going out in accommodations, and we still have enough space to account for it in the building based on our model, but it's just becoming more and more of a challenge. Again, folks need to stay at home if they have a medical accommodation, and some have received approval because they're primary caregivers for a person who's at risk. And I am personally not going to be responsible for telling someone to report to work knowing that I had the opportunity to keep them and their loved ones safer.
Okay, so there's a question about getting in touch with guidance counselors and matters surrounding seniors in college application process, which is time sensitive. I would say reach out to Ms. Julis, whose email address was posted in the chat, and also Ms. Pace for other senior matters. Her email address is lpace, excuse me, 3@schools.nyc.gov. I will also post that in the chat after I'm done with the questions. Sorry. There was a question that was interesting. Can we streamline the Gmail messages sent to kids for their classes? And I'm thinking that that question came up to me on a sidebar. It seems to me that students are getting messages from their teachers like within the first 15 or 20 minutes of class. And that might be a major distraction. So the question actually is, can we streamline the Gmail messages sent to kids from their classes?
You got it. It's tough based on the way the system works. I mean, I'm not in a position to say no. I need to do a little bit of research on that and figure out what, I know there's ways to set up a Gmail inbox, right? Certain rules where emails can then cascade into specific folders. I think that kind of self-organizational activity that we adults and professionals use should be built into what students do as well. And it will probably reduce a lot of the stress and probably avoid the loss of important information that we've been seeing as a trend around the school. So I'm going to add that to my pick list of things to do following this. So thank you for that recommendation.
I see a lot of questions, Janine, about Pupil Path and information not looking accurate. I believe, Max, you mentioned that it is up to date.
Should be.
Now.
Pupil Path is updated on a weekly basis. We've had to do a little bit of reinforcing of that schedule, but with the end of the marking period having been yesterday, we're going to see a lot of work that's been submitted over the course of the last few days now rapidly graded and updated in Pupil Path as well. So if you thought the grades were completely set, they're not yet. We still have a number of grades that have to go in, and many teachers are giving additional opportunities for students to make up work. Not every single assignment, but in some instances, several assignments, just to make sure that it can be offered for a regrade.
I'm also seeing a comment here that assignments are being given to students at all hours of the night, some coming in really late in the evening. I want to say I can't imagine that's happening, but it is a comment.
So
Anything
I'm a teacher.
to that?
I'm a teacher in high school, and my teachers have the same issue.
when the teachers post the assignments, you guys can agree as a school what time, because all they have to do is when they set it up to be assigned, they can tell what time they want it to be posted. And if you agree on a time as a school, you can tell all the teachers to post it, to mark, to post it at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or, you know, whatever time, because my school is having the same issue. Kids are getting them all random hours, and we mean well as teachers, but, you know, so if you just set up a time, it can be easily done.
I think in the spring, we had a certain degree of consistency around when assignments were due. And so that was something that we locked in as far as the drop time for assignments. I think that is absolutely something that we can visit as a school community. Thank you for that recommendation.
So I think there might be some confusion about leaving blended for fully remote, whether programs are exactly the same or not.
Same. So just
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I just want to clarify that whether a learner is remote or in person, the program is the same.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I noticed in the chat, some people are saying that if their child, their young professional has an IEP, that they have concerns about those needs being met. I strongly encourage you to reach out to the Assistant Principal of Instructional Support, Terry Budney, and inquire about what, or describe how that need may not being met in any way, shape, or form, because we want to make sure that we stay on top of that. I'm dropping her email into the chat as well. Again, that's for students in needs of instructional support with IEPs, 504s. So that's the email to go to. Sorry.
Somebody mentioned that PSAL sports is supposed to happen later on this year. To my knowledge, that is still on hold. I've not heard anything that changed.
Correct. So far, no. There's talk of, you know, distance sports being played, but there's still no concrete plan from the PSAL on how they're going to administer that.
There's also a question about how safe is the school, since we've been getting letters from DOV regarding COVID-19 and some people have to quarantine.
Every time a person reports COVID-like symptoms, we contact what's called the Situation Room. They provide us with next steps. Sometimes those next steps include a form letter, like the ones that I've been sending out. I think we're up to 4 or 5 now. Again, due to privacy and health regulations around people's health privacy, I cannot provide any more information than what you're seeing in those letters. But know that if any protocol is met where we need to shut things down, then we'll do so.
Okay, French teacher.
I'm also looking and seeing if we are missing things. I think some parents are asking about a handbook. We don't have, as far as I know, specifically a handbook for freshman students only, but there is a handbook, a general school handbook located on the website.
Yep.
Which will now have to be updated with the new bell schedule and.
Correct. That's being updated again over the weekend. Okay.
I think
I'm just scanning through. I'm not really picking and choosing any particular questions at this point.
The questions that you guys are putting into the chat will be saved. So if you feel your questions aren't being answered, definitely we will be taking a look at them. We, meaning the principal, will be looking at it and following up and getting them answered for you. Okay, so have no fear. Your questions will all be answered. Max, do you have time for more questions? Or
I only have time for another 2, and I just want to talk about the workload because I see that as a consistent.
Yeah.
Right. So some folks were saying, hey, it's really hypocritical. You said there was going to be no homework. My child is working till very late at night. Right. So the teachers themselves have been instructed to provide ample independent or group work time during class so that students don't have to take the vast majority of their classwork into the evening. There's no actually assigned homework, with the exception in some cases and more advanced classes of outside reading that students have to do. But that's not graded. That's simply a task. Now, the reality is a little bit different. I'll take the hit on this. It has been inconsistent in terms of the implementation in classes across the board, so that although many of our faculty are doing the best they can, they're not pacing lessons out in a way that always allows for enough time for students to do their work in class. And that is a major focal point of our adjustments going into the second marking period, is making sure that we not only estimate the amount of time that a task will take, but also providing students the ample amount of time to work on that in class. Again, it wasn't supposed to be, there's not supposed to be any homework in the classic sense, but we see it happening and we're not blind to it. Students brought it to us first, followed by families, and it's going to call for a full staff reset. As far as the other components of the workload, you know, teachers have been re-encouraged to, not re-encouraged, but are actually met with their supervising APs to revise their pacing calendars, so that they're actually meeting the 2 days of tasks over every 3-day average that we had originally set out to do, giving students enough time to take a break, to reset, to actually work on clarifying questions, and then turn in their assignments in a timely manner.
I see some folks mentioning our PTA Family Connect. We heard your voices about connecting to families in your neighborhood, and the deadline was today to get that information into the PTA, as far as being able to provide your information. And by information, I just mean boroughs and zip codes, no addresses of people in the neighborhood. So we are diligently working on getting that all set up, and you guys should be getting a list from us of parents that are in your neighborhood that you can just reach out to, that have opted in, because they want the same thing you guys want. They want to be able to connect and feel connected. So you'll be hearing some more from us, the executive board, about that.
So I guess what I'll bookend with is, I plan on, as soon as this meeting wraps, I'm going to save the text of this conversation, just like I do every one of these meetings. I go through, and for questions that may have skipped past our view, and I apologize if they did, I will work to answer them individually. What's really, really helpful going ahead for our future PTA meetings is to have your full name as your name for these Zoom calls. So that way, when there's a question that I have to respond to, I can either send it to the right people and they know who to contact, or I can reach out to you directly. So that's just an organizational preference that I have.
That's a good point, and that's actually a good habit when we join these meetings, that people put their full names, since it is being saved in the chat. So Principal Re-Sugiura, as always, we are so happy when you come to us and update us with important school information. Janine, thank you for all the hard work that you're doing with our families. And the most important question I guess I have for you, Max, is what costume are you wearing this Halloween?
I don't know.
I know what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a witch.
Now that Halloween has been put on hold.
It breaks my heart, because art and design has some of the best.
Oh, they do.
Awesome costumes. These kids are so creative. I'm sorry, Max. I just had to say that, because that's one of the really great things about being at art and design, is to see some true creativity from our kids. So I don't know, maybe we should still try and get them all to post up what their costumes are or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's still happening on, that is still happening. So students are encouraged to wear costumes. There's actually going to be an open space
Right.
where students can hop in on Monday and share their costumes. That's coming out from Mr. Familia. So
That's wonderful.
And I don't know if you watched the show Ratched, but
Yeah.
I was going to be the doctor from that. My wife was going to be Ratched. So we'll see how it goes.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you as usual. I want to thank all the parents for joining us today. I know it's Friday afternoon and it's at 3 o'clock. I think the times set for these meetings are perfect on a Friday, because hopefully you guys want to get your weekend started, and there were quite a few of you, so we thank you. For those of you that do celebrate the holidays, please be safe. and take care of yourselselves, okay? And thank you again, Principal Maxicura, for the updates. To our
Thank you,
school
everybody.
that you do.
Have a
So,
great weekend.
want to unmute your mics now and give, you know, him a hand here, you know, and all.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Be safe,
Happy
everyone.
Halloween.
Thank you
Good
so
seeing
much.
everybody.
Thank
you. Great weekend.
Oh,
Weekend.
God bless everyone.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay well.
you.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Vote, vote, vote.
Oh, yes, definitely
Oh,
vote.
done that already.
Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves.
No
I love,
joke.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on.
I love those breathing techniques
Take
in the
care.
beginning.